Hi, I'm Chua. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a panel of your speakers. It's such a privilege of the platform. The 1 hour that you're about to invest in this program, the 1 hour is time, and time is life. Life that I cannot return you, but I promise to do my best to exchange it for the greatest value I know how. I'd like to first start off by saying the name of the title is called Dance in the Rain. This period we are hit by an unseen virus that we can't see, and it's greatly disrupted our lives. But instead of looking at the rain like a storm, we gotta find a way to be resilient and go out there and play in the rain. Whatever life hits us with, we just make the best out of it. We're not going to trivialize the situation. We know people have lost their lives, and people have lost their livelihoods. Unemployment is at a record high, and I'm not going to trivialize that. But as human beings, we adapt because we are survivors. Because once we lose the spirit, we have lost the fight. And that's why we're here today, to rally you on. That human beings will come out victorious once again. I'd like to start off by sharing with you this motivational story. Last year, I was invited to speak at the Global MDRT in Florida. After the event, while flying back to Singapore, I had to transit in Germany. I planned my connecting flight, Lufthansa to Singapore Airlines. The gap was about 2 hours. And I said, 2 hours, no problem. Definitely, I can make it. Not knowing that the connecting flight is in another terminal or another building. And I had to go through 2 immigrations, going out of immigration and coming back into immigration. That took quite a while. And by the time I was about to clear the second immigration, the departure sign says last call, Singapore Airlines, last call. And there were about 100 people in front of me in the queue. At that point, my mind was racing about 1,000 megabytes per second. And I realized this: if I don't get onto the plane, I will not be going home. I will not be going home to my family. I'll be stuck in a city which I'm unfamiliar with. I don't even have my luggage with me, and who knows when the next returning flight to Singapore was going to be. In that split second, I need to make a decision. Get out of my comfort zone and step up and do something about the situation. And what I did next was so uncharacteristic of me. I stood there and I made a public announcement. I said, "Excuse me, everyone." And the people turned to me. 100 faces, they look at me, and I said, I need to get on my flight and it's the last call. Is it okay if you allow me to cut your queue? Because if you don't, I'm going to miss my flight. And then I look at them. They all look at me, and maybe some of them were Germans and they didn't understand English. But one American guy said, "Hey, come on buddy, come, take my queue." He was about part way through the queue, the 50 queue. But that ain't going to do it, because even if I cut half the queue, I was not going to make it to the plane. So I looked at the first 3 guys, and they were still looking at me. Another guy said, "Come on buddy, come, take my place." Number 1 and number 2 didn't let me cut, but that's okay. I was already at number 3. And within a few minutes, it was my turn. I turned around and I said to everybody, "Thank you everyone, because I know I just didn't cut 2 persons' queue, I cut all of your queues, and I thank you so much for it." And they cheered me on and said, "Go for it, go for it!" And I went through immigration and I ran with all my might, and I was the last person to get onto the plane before the Singapore Airlines girl said, "You are the last passenger." And she shut the door. As I sat in my seat, I heard the announcement from the pilot. He says, "Give us a few minutes because there are a few passengers that did not make it for this plane. 9 passengers did not make it to this plane, and as a safety precaution, we got to offload their luggages." And I was thinking, I probably was the only one who made it. and 9 people didn't make it, 1 out of 10, that's the top 10%. I was top 10%. I made it because at that point I made a choice to step out of my comfort zone and do something that was uncomfortable. We as human beings, we have this mechanism where our mind always tells us, don't do anything that's uncomfortable, because our minds are programmed to preserve us from hurt, from embarrassment, from pain. But sometimes you need to step out and you got to do what's uncomfortable to achieve what's pleasurable. And because of that, I was able to go home and be reunited with my family. So during this period, I want to share with you this quote from Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin said this: the most important factor in survival is neither intelligence nor strength, but adaptability. It is not the strongest or the fittest that survive, but those that can adapt to the situation. Now, you think about, say, a prisoner in this modern time or even during the war. The prisoner who can adapt quickly to this complete change in his life, in his environment, are the ones that survive. Of course, the first few days they go into the camps or into the prison, they need to adjust, but the one who quickly accepts that this is going to be his new norm, rushes to get the best bunk bed, the best position, the best place in the yard, make the choice friends, and he survives. And after a while, you can even see during this very dreadful period in the prison, they make friends, they can sing, they can laugh, they tell jokes, and they look forward to the yard time, because that's how we humans are built, to adapt and to survive. So during this period, I want to share with you a little chart. We go through phases. As you see from this first chart, when COVID first hit us, we were filled with panic and fear because there was so much uncertainty. We did not know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen to us, our family, our livelihood. We stayed at home. We don't even know how dangerous or how deadly this disease is. So we were filled with fear and panic. But as information started to come in, we assess the situation and we say, okay, if we do certain things, we'll be safe. And if we don't, then we put ourselves in some kind of danger. But our focus turn and we start to be angry. Why did this happen? Who did this? Are the authorities doing enough? Our healthcare, are they able to cope? So we're filled with anger and lots of questions. Then we go into the next period where our countries ask us to go into this lockdown. During this lockdown, there will be 2 types of people. Those that are in despair and those that are feeling bored. Now, are you feeling despair or are you feeling bored? In a general sense of the term, those who are in despair are those who are infected and affected by the disease, a family member is ill, or their livelihood has been compromised, and they are getting worried. When they wake up in the morning, they're worried. They say, my savings is depleting, and they are filled with negative emotions, in this case, probably fear. Who are those who are bored? Those who are not affected. They have amassed a lot of money, they're rich, and they just said, I don't want to be locked down. I want to go out there and have fun and go to the pubs and go to the restaurants. So they are bored. Just this segregation allows you as leaders to segmentize your market, those who are in despair and those who are doing well. Just by their behaviors, you'll be able to profile them a little bit. We'll come back to that. Now, this final part is called the post-lockdown. I know some countries, they go back into lockdown and they're open and they're back into lockdown, so it ding-dongs up and down. As I'm doing this video, certain countries are going back into lockdown. But there will be a time, whether lockdown or not, people are beginning to accept and adapt to this new norm. For example, training or the seminar. Now the seminar needs to go on. They are not going to wait indefinitely until there's completely no lockdown and everybody can come to a huge arena. They say, no, the show must go on. We need to adapt and we need to move on. So they start doing virtual online programs. And as a speaker, I just exactly saw that trend. At the beginning, there were little jobs because there's so much uncertainty, but come second half of the year, a lot of jobs started to come in because a lot of companies says, hey, we just gotta move on. And so they adapt to the changes. Your customers are going to behave in the same way. Yes, it might be a difficult first half of the year for you, but as people adapt, they start moving on with their lives. In Singapore, recently, the property sales went up 10% month on month. And when they asked the CEO of a very established real estate company, he said, you know, why the sales have gone up? Because people are tired of waiting for things to go back to its original state. They don't believe it might. So they go ahead with their purchases. There were lots of people who wanted to buy houses and they put it off, but now they just said, we wouldn't be waiting anymore. They want to get married, they want to start a family. Some of them had en-bloc sales and they just don't want to keep waiting forever, and so the purchases started coming. And that was the same for the car industry also. Okay, so as we come into the second quarter, you know, people will have investment money or all those supposedly sales that you guys are supposed to close in the first half, they're going to start happening in the second half. So brace, the rain's going to come, but you're going to dance in it. Okay. For us to adapt and thrive, let me share with you one simple tweak I did. A slight tweak in my branding, a slight shift in my focus, a slight mindset shift, and I opened massive global markets. So I'm a stage speaker. I've always been. I've been to Philippines at least 4 times doing events. Suddenly, there was no stage for me to be on. But now speaking through a camera, speaking into a camera, or speaking online, well, I can do that. That's not an issue. But that's one thing I missed. My website. I did not add in the SEO, search engine optimization, the word online motivator, virtual trainer. So I was unsearchable for the first few months. And when I realized this, I just need to do some fine tweaking, and then I was searchable again. That is what we call adaptability. Okay, we just look around and we say, hey, certain things have changed, we just need to tweak. And if you see from this picture, I've even put right in front of my website, highlighting that I am a competent virtual trainer. The next motivation story comes from somewhere 25 years ago. I have a friend, he owns a second-hand car dealer. And I was 25 years old, I drove my used car to him and I said, Anthony, how much would you take in for my used car? He looked at it, evaluated for a while, and he said, Christian, I'll offer you this price. And I said, thank you, I'll accept it. But before we move on, can I ask you a very curious question? He said, what's that? Go ahead. I said, how do you know you can sell my car? He said, what? I said, how do you know that my car is saleable? He looked at me quite bewildered and he said, Christian, that's my job. My job is to sell used cars. I said, yeah, but how do you know whether my car or that car, but you don't have a choice. He said, no, I don't have a choice. As long as the person comes in and trades in his car, I do an evaluation. I think that's the price I want to take it in, and I offer him a price. Now every day I am faced with different types of models. I need to get myself acquainted with those models. I adapt to the characteristic of that particular car. Some have scratches, some the leathers are worn, some certain knobs are missing. Okay? Now, the trick is this. I said, tell me. To sell a car, all it needs is, the next sentence is going to say, totally changed my life as a salesperson. Do you want to hear it? Do you? He said this. He said it's just a matter of convincing. Let me say that again. It's just a matter of convincing. He said, I've only got about 16 cars each time in my showroom. And if a customer comes in and is looking for a particular model and I don't have that model, it's just a question of convincing. The key word here is convincing. That's your primary super skill as a sales professional. It's a question of convincing. Wow, I took that wisdom and I ran with it. And each time I faced with a dilemma, whether in sales or at the airport, to cut the queue, it was a matter of convincing. It was a matter of convincing not the 100, but the 1 or 2 people in the queue to say, come on buddy, come, cut in front of me. It was a matter of convincing. In life, it's about that. If you are faced with a difficult customer and you said, it's so hard to close that deal, remember this, it's a matter of convincing. So upgrade your skill, upgrade your communication styles, upgrade your understanding of your customer, and then it's just a matter of convincing. So what I'm about to show you is a little video of a marble race. It came into my social media feed and I will just watch it with lots of interest. It's about a guy who dug a long gutter in the mud and he threw some marbles as a marble race, and he gave a narration while the marble was going. And I said, well, I guess the marbles that in front will remain in front and the marbles that behind will remain behind. But that's not true. So here's the video. As it starts off, the turquoise marble is right in front, followed by the green marble and the brown marble, and the position starts to change. How? Because while all of the marbles are going in the same general direction and they are going in the same gutter, the trajectory is completely different from the start. The moment the marble starts, they knock other marbles, they knock different parts of the gutter, different parts of the wall, and even when they come to a divergence where the marble can have a choice of taking 2 routes, some marble take the lower route and some marble take the upper route, as you can see. And this again changed even more trajectory, and you see the leadership now change as the second marble is now the purple and the third marble is the gold. And the brown one is chasing, and it's wow. I looked at it and I said, there must be a lesson point from here. There must be a lesson point. You see, throughout this journey, just like us, we're gonna hit certain roadblocks, we're gonna hit certain humps, we're gonna collide with other people, and that would change my trajectory. Such a great life lesson that I want to show you in this video, that the marble is subjected to gravity as it comes down the gutter, but for us, we have complete control on the decisions that we want to make, and we can control our trajectory. Right now, for a moment, you see the maroon marble was in front and then it lost its position, and now the bright green one is right in front and it's coming very close behind is the purple one. And as we come down, you see the leadership changes again, and there's a gold marble who takes 3rd position and then loses his lead. The green one's right in front, and as we end the video, you will see that, wow, it's so stunning with just a simple visual and a video like this, that we can draw such an important life lesson. That in life, it's who we bump into, how we react to the knocks, who we talk to, will change our trajectory and will change our outcomes. The key points I want to talk here today: being in front doesn't guarantee that you remain in front during this disruption. You may be leaders, but if you don't protect your castle and build a nice moat and to reinvent yourself, you might lose your pole position. Changes in the environment often offer opportunities to advance. What does that mean? I'll come back to it in a second. Thirdly, who you knock against and what you knock against will change your trajectory. From the onset, when the master player releases the marbles, they were all going in slightly different directions. So hitting the different angles eventually results with different outcomes. Again, if one marble were to roll on its own, compared to a mass of marbles rolling down, the outcomes are again different. They are always affected by your environment. I want to show you this picture. It's an elderly lady. But the moment I show you, you see the gun. You know what's that? It's called the equalizer. So say the lady doesn't have an elderly lady doesn't have a gun, and she's confronted with a big man who is bullying her. Obviously, if they go into a physical fight, the elderly lady loses. But what if she had a gun? Not only she has equalized the situation, she's even more powerful than him. What do we mean by an equalizer? If you ask a huge Caucasian to fight with a small Asian, we lose. But if we are both handed with a same weapon, that's called the equalizer. It makes us equal. This word equalizer, unfortunately for some, and fortunately for some, has arrived. Give you a second example. A very strong soccer team, given the normal field conditions, will definitely pulverize the lower ranking team. But if they play on a pitch that is muddy and wet and soaking, and the better team cannot bring out all the skill sets, the equalizer is actually the rain. And by fluke and by other reasons of slipperiness and accidents, maybe the outcome might be even different for the weaker team. That is what we call the equalizer. In this case, your equalizer is the coronavirus, COVID-19. Because what has happened is that suddenly all consultants cannot function the way they used to. They cannot go out there and have meetings, one-on-one meetings. Suddenly things are pushed online. Suddenly you need to get people onto virtual calls. Suddenly you need to convince your customers to go on virtual calls. Why is this an equalizer? Now, making an appointment and doing virtual call, sales call, everyone's unfamiliar with it. Everyone starts to learn from ground zero. So whether you are a veteran or you are a rookie, you are in the same start-off point. That's called the equalizer. Everyone is new to closing cases online. Some people say, then what do we do after the customer says yes? You don't know? A lot of people don't know. That's your equalizer. But if you stepped up and you run in front, that's how you're going to win the marble race. Everyone is unfamiliar on how to smile with their mask on. If you have a mask, how do you smile? You see the QR code which I have attached. Take out your phone, click on the QR code, goes to one of my videos. You can pause this video. I don't know whether you can pause this video or not. I think it's broadcast live. And then you watch that for about 2 minutes. And I teach you how to smile with your mask on, because I'm a body language expert, of course. If you want to, you can of course subscribe to the channel, and I've always put great videos there. Everyone wants to be more engaging on their virtual calls, but how do you do it? It's new to everyone. The dynamic's really different when you are face to face with your customer, and those days we've already forgotten where we could actually touch each other. These days we're talking through cyberspace, through a online medium. How do you become more engaging? These are skills that you can pick up and equalize the situation. Now we talk about the customer's mental and financial status. Remember, I talk about two types of customers, one in despair and the other one bored. So you could realize that one is more affected and one's not affected. There is massive unemployment, and some of your customers have lost their jobs. Their incomes are cut or even completely dried up. But then some are profiteering from the market. Maybe they own restaurants or takeouts. They own apps or online businesses. So what are the opportunities here for you? Recently, I had a call with one of the consultants in Singapore, and I asked her, has it been hard for you? And she said no. And I said, why not? I thought everyone's suffering. As a matter of fact, she says, I'm thriving. I said, why? She said, it's so easy for me to get the customers on to do a virtual call for a few reasons. Number one, they feel less pressured because it's easier to say no over the virtual call. So the psychology is, there's no way she can reach out of the camera and force me to sign a deal. They felt more comfortable coming on virtual calls. Number two, she says, it's more efficient for me. She said she doesn't need to go through the traffic. She doesn't need to pay money for parking. She doesn't need to buy the customer a drink. And because she did not need to go out to meet the customers, she became more efficient, and she could even call 8 to 9 customers a day. So for that, remember this, social distancing isn't social isolation, and you still can thrive during this period. And as leaders, you know, there is massive unemployment. And that also says that it's a very good opportunity to recruit, because when people can't find a job, they are willing to come out of the comfort zone, and perhaps a job in the financial service sector has not been something that they were willing to do. Now they say, I'm willing to do. Okay, so it's a time for you to really pack up the recruits and expand your agency. Thirdly, people are spending more time online. That's a new norm. You spend more time online, they watch more Netflix, they watch more YouTube, they spend more time on their social media. And because of that, if you create a social media presence, then people remember you. And the important thing is, if people can remember you, they can give you opportunities. If they can remember you and it's time to sign and buy an insurance policy, you are number one on their mind. You see, I've spoken in the insurance industry for almost 20 years. And the amount of friends I have in this industry is massive. But for example, if someone approaches me and said, Christian, do you know any insurance agent that I would like to make a purchase with? Wow! That's a lot of people I know. But who are the top 3 or 5? Comes to my mind the moment they ask, name me 5 insurance agents. And a few names keep popping up. Why? Because they create a presence. They create a presence. There's an effect, psychological, there's an optical effect, and it's called this. And it says that some people have this condition where unless an object is moving, they will not notice it. And unless you are there and you create a little bit of buzz, people might not notice you. That's your opportunity. Mental fortitude is the ability to execute exactly what you need to do, even in challenging times, even when you don't feel like it, even when you feel emotionally challenged and down. The successful people just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they execute it. At that point, when I was in the German airport, I cannot consider, what if they laughed at me? This is so embarrassing. What if my emotions were hurt? No, it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excuse me, everyone. Can I have your attention? I really need to cut your queue. What's the worst case scenario? People say no. What's the best case scenario? I make it to the plane, I go home, and I hug my family. Welcome back, and in this part of the training I want to share with you how you could make snappy, good decisions. Have you hesitated before? And you look back and I said, why didn't I just seize the opportunity? And you know why? Because our brains are wired to prevent us from doing anything that's uncomfortable. It's a preservation mechanism for our survival. In order not to cause harm to ourselves, our brain kicks in negative feelings. However, successful people know that sometimes some good decisions require you to step out of your comfort zone and make that decision and do things whether we are in the mood or not. In 2009, Captain Chesley Sullenberger, the famous pilot who landed the US Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the story, let me share it quickly with you. Shortly after takeoff, the plane was hit by a flock of birds. And within 2.5 seconds, Captain Sullenberger, his training kicked into action and he knew exactly what to do. But what he has never done before was to decide whether to land the plane in the Hudson River, because they lost the engine. And do you know how much time he had to make that decision? Whether to turn back to the airport or to land the plane? He had 8 seconds. He had 8 seconds to make a decision that would decide on the fate of hundreds of passengers. 8 seconds. Under that kind of pressure, would you be able to do and make the same good decisions? What I'm going to share with you is this 5-second action-taking method. Okay, how many of you can relate this with me? You're sleeping on your bed, the alarm goes off, you don't feel like waking up, and then you press the snooze button. Can you relate that with me? How many of you can just wake up the moment the alarm rings? I always give this analogy to parents. There's a pain and pleasure principle. People are driven towards pleasure and move away from pain. Which is more powerful? Going towards pleasure or moving away from pain? It's moving away from pain. And let me explain to you. If your kid is sleeping on the bed and you say, honey, wake up. Mommy made you a great breakfast. Bacon and eggs, sunny side up, mayonnaise sauce. And the kid say, Mom, never mind, forget it. I want to sleep. Because the pleasure isn't a strong enough draw to wake the kid up. But if you go to your kid and shout, get out, fire, fire, the house is on fire. Immediately, without hesitation, the kid jumps up and pops out of bed. See, so moving away from pain it's much more powerful. But sometimes, for us leaders, at that level, some decisions that move towards pleasure causes some pain. Okay, here's how it works. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in your head and make the decision. What is this? This is called interrupting the pattern of habit. So before you let your emotions talk you out of doing that action, you interrupt and says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and you do it. You see this very often during a bungee jump because people are so excited and say, oh, I want that experience, I want to jump off a cliff, I want to jump off a bridge. But when they go there and they see the height, from where they are, they become fearful and emotions take over them and they say, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. But they already paid the money and the instructor says, no, you're going to love it, you're going to love it. And the instructors try to talk them out of it and say, okay, forget it. Don't think about it at the moment, don't think about it. We'll just strap you up. Okay, raise up your hands and count with me. When I count from 5 to 1, just jump. So say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just jump. It's a very effective, simple but effective method that we even use it in the school. We tell the children, I want you to keep quiet at the count of 5. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, snap. The class goes quiet. In the same way, I use this for my kids. I say, come here. They say, wait, come here now. Wait, Daddy. 5, 4, 3, 2. He's in the room. It's very hypnotic and it's very authoritative. So this is what you can do to condition yourself too. And I'm not talking about making crazy, reckless decisions. I'm talking about decisions that you as leaders have the wisdom to know that this is what I need to do. But sometimes I don't feel like it. You know what? We'll never feel like doing uncomfortable things. We'll never feel like we need to know that we have to do it. So when I was at the airport in Germany, I had several seconds because the signage states there, last call. I need to make a decision quickly. And I said, I will have to make that public announcement, throw myself in the deep end and say, excuse me everyone. By the time I said that, within the 5 seconds, there was no turning back because everyone was looking at me and I was not going to say, oh, nothing, it's just play. No, I said, excuse me everyone. And when they looked at me, I said, do you mind if I cut your cue? That's what we call the snap decision, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 snap decision. And it totally changed my outcome. I would have been stuck in Germany for another day or two, but instead I got on the plane and I was only one of the 10 passengers that made it. Okay, so as leaders, go through your thoughts right now and what were the decisions that you missed out, you hesitated, and the moment was over. Don't let it happen again. Because there are decisions in our life and you are being talked out of it. Even being influenced by your emotions. When you just needed to make that snap decision. So, let's do this exercise now. When I count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I want you to clap your hands. Don't think about it, just follow me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, clap. If you did it, then you're on your way to acquiring this method. Because each time you need to make a decision, you tell that to yourself. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You interrupt your pattern, you do not allow your emotions to influence you, and then you just make it happen. It's so authoritative, it's so hypnotic, and it actually works. I hope you enjoyed that little exercise, and now I'm going to share with you a second technique which is called the whole brain approach. We actually only have one brain, but we have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, and most of you know that the left hemisphere controls your right side of your body and your right hemisphere controls your left side of the body. But not only that, your left hemisphere does the task of processing, they love maths and science, they love systems, and they love rationalizing things. On your right side, it's more creative, it's more emotional, they love colors and music. Now I want you to watch this video and I'm going to explain to you what this is all about.
Just suppose you'd been challenged to solve a puzzle involving some nails. The challenge is to balance 13 wire nails on the head of another nail that's set into a block of wood. You're not allowed to use any other materials or equipment, and when the puzzle is solved, the 13 nails must remain balanced on the head of the nail in the block without any outside help or assistance.
This video describes the communication between your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere. So if you're purely left hemisphere, you will think in a rational manner, like how this is happening right now. They think a logical way how to fix this puzzle.
They are exciting shapes,
if you are right hemisphere, you may not want to think about the puzzle, but instead you want to play around with whatever's available to entertain yourself.
Sort of a cross
but when
Romeo
both
and Juliet
hemispheres, you will get a result that benefits from the strength of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So creativity and logic, when they combine, they solve this puzzle. Okay, so this is a very quick analogy of what I want to share with you. Now, if you're very left brain, then you think everything in sequence, and you probably might not even need the first exercise where we count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because you're purely functioning based on your left brain. But if you are more right brain, then when your emotion kicks in and it overwhelms your left brain, then you will start making decisions out of emotions, then in a rational way. How is this going to be useful? Because during your work, during your field work, it is best that you can rely on the strength of both your left brain and your right brain, because sometimes you need the logic to overcome your emotions, and sometimes you need your emotions to overcome your logic. So explain to me, Christian, what do you mean by at times the left brain is useful and at times the right brain is useful? Well, when you go out into the field, and if you use the left brain approach when you need to empathize with your clients, you will look like a very task-oriented, hard-hearted person. Okay? When you look at a disaster on social media, how does it play in your head? Some of you will say, what happened? How can we prevent this again? But the others will say, oh, it's so pitiful. Look at those people that are suffering. So a left brain person is speaking and a right brain person is speaking. If you're purely left brain, your customers will find you a little bit task-oriented, a bit tough. If you're purely right brain, then sometimes you cannot make logical decisions because you make a lot of emotional decisions. When you have the whole brain approach, it balances. It balances, all right? So let me give you an example based on your industry. If you do some calls, some cold calls, and the guy slams the phone and said, don't call me anymore, you're really irritating, and he slams the phone down. How did you feel? Those of you who are really right brain, you feel embarrassed, you feel hurt, you feel like you don't want to do it again because you don't want to revisit that emotions. But those of you who are a left brainer, you just say, doesn't care, I'll never hear from that guy again. Who cares? I got to feed my family, I got to do what's right. You see, the left brainer speaks in a different way and the right brainer speaks in a different way. Okay? So at times when you combine both full brain, it's going to be fantastic, because times when you need to be a left brainer, your logical brain sees the day and make the right decisions. And when it's time to be more empathetic, your right brain sees the day and creates the best outcome for you. Now I'm going to show you a few simple techniques to connect your left brain and your right brain. When the scientists studied Einstein's brain and they cut it up, they realized the connection between the left hemisphere is one of the largest they've ever seen. Maybe that's why it makes him so intelligent. So what we need to do is try to connect your left brain and your right brain. There are a few simple techniques. You can sit down and you cross your legs. Because I said the left brain controls the right side of your body and your right brain controls your left side of your body. However, whenever there's a cross, the brain starts connecting. Alright? So if you cross your legs and your hands, You can cross it and you can put it down, or you can do it this way. Then call to mind an uncomfortable incident. An incident that you were shouted at or you felt embarrassed. And the feeling's terrible, but bring it up to mind. And then use your left brain to rationalize it. Stay in there for a while. And feel the feeling, the negative feeling slowly dissipate and evaporate. That is when your left brain is now speaking to your right brain and say, that's okay. Don't take it personally. You're never going to see that guy again or that person again. If you continue to do this technique and practice, your left brain and your right brain starts to connect more often. And in the same way, if you are a left brainer and people say that you are insensitive, you can do the same thing, and the horrible incident that just happened and you just don't understand why people are so insensitive, you come into this position and you recall that incident and you let your right brain speak to you. I should be more sensitive. I should try to feel for that person. Because we are all both left and right brain, but one could be more domineering. But as leaders, if you have the benefits of both your left and right brain, it is going to reap a certain type of rewards. Okay? These are little simple techniques that are advanced, and we teach it to leaders and advanced salespeople. Another method you can use is using your eyes and your hand, and you draw the number 8 while your hand is following your thumb, and then you continue the letter 8 like that. Your face facing forward, but your hand and your eyes follow your thumb. Okay? You can do it for about 5 minutes. And after a week or so, you will begin to feel, hey, I'm not so left brain after all. I'm a little bit more right brain now. And if you're a lot right brain, you say, hey, now I start to feel for people. I hope you enjoy this technique, and these 2 new techniques will be added into your toolbox, which I hope is quite full. I would like to leave you with this Bible verse, which carried me through this period. In Proverbs 13:22, it says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Let me do that again. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. What's it saying? It says that if you do your work with integrity and is pleasing in the eyes of the Lord, you will have enough to leave for your children's children, the grandchildren. And the sinner who accumulates his wealth through unethical means, they are storing up their wealth to be passed to you. The sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. For that I say, integrity will guarantee longevity in your work. I'm Christian Chua. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll pray for your country. You pray for my country too. Peace out.